here's the car. We've been actually really excited about this car.
Everybody's excited about it. Actually, that's not fair. Everybody has an opinion about this car, and nobody's driven it yet.
Okay, but there's an excitement level to this because
for sure.
of video games. We've experienced cars that have been featured in video games before they've been released, and this continues it. But also, Toyota hasn't fallen into that trap, in my opinion, of the development time of a car taking so long that everybody is over it by the time it gets released.
They're on the edge here. We're talking about, look, this is the 5th generation Supra. We all know that the 4th generation is the Fast and Furious one that became, honestly, I don't truly believe there's any way this car could have come out that would have satisfied the hype monster that is the 4th gen. And the 4th gen became that hype monster after they stopped selling it.
Which is amazing.
Because of Fast and Furious, not because everybody loved it originally. On those lines, though, the 4th gen Supra, its problem was it was too expensive. It was 50 grand in 96 when they stopped selling it. This one is 50 grand in 2020.
The platform for the Supra, let's start there.
You're going to go straight to the BMW problem, aren't you?
Well, we need to address this. We need to talk about this. And I wanted to know, so I asked Tada-san, the chief engineer, why not talk to him about this BMW issue? And it's not a dirty word in Toyota land here.
It's a reality they're facing. In the same way, look, the 86 is here as well. The 86 would not exist if Toyota had not partnered with Subaru. They went looking for a partner, again, to spread out the risk for the new Supra, and they partnered with BMW entirely because of the straight six. We can rage about them as enthusiasts. We can go, no, you make it yourself. Then they wouldn't make it. That's
it's
the problem.
Reality of
it's the reality
sports cars moving forward.
For sure.
Everybody is saying, you pry the Toyota badge off, and does a BMW roundel fit real nicely in those holes?
Somebody's going to do that. Somebody's going to buy this car. They're going to swap the badges, including on the wheel.
It's going to be a giant joke.
And we're all going to laugh. By the way, while you're talking, I'm going to enjoy some Supra water.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the platform, I'm going to get this out.
Okay,
I asked about what was the thinking behind it. 97.4 is the wheelbase. And what Tada-san said, what the chief engineer said, is they went after, for Toyota, the Cayman. That was their thinking. And BMW started with the Boxsters. They brought their ideals of what both cars should be. And so BMW is only going after the Roadster, Toyota is only going after the Coupe. And once those were decided for platform sharing purposes, neither company talked to each other again.
But what you're saying is they had to take the FT1 concept, which obviously didn't have a platform underneath it. They had to take that design and work to hard points that were given to them as designers. They had to make certain things match.
Correct, but they weren't consulting each other from a styling or, I mean, component sharing later on for manufacturing purposes, yes, but from design and, fighting for various things, which I like to hear. The Boxster and the Cayman didn't exist for any of the prior generations of the Supra.
Fair point.
They were not around. And then they came on the scene, so when Toyota is bringing the car back, they're now benchmarking other cars that enthusiasts love.
There's a question. $50,000. If you get the launch edition of this, it's 55 grand. By the way, the launch edition is all matted out wheels, red covers on your mirrors. Anyway, sorry. You can probably get red covers for your mirrors later.
I'm sure people will make them.
But let's be kind. 70 grand is probably the bottom you could get in for a 718 Cayman. I also think this competes directly with the Corvette.
You mentioned that, but we've identified this is a 10-inch, 9 and change, shorter wheelbase than the Corvette.
That's significant, but it's very similar in thinking. It does feel smaller because of that smaller wheelbase, but it's very similar in thinking. You could drive cross-country, you can carry stuff in the back.
Yes.
It's roughly the same price. I think they're ignoring the fact that car exists.
I don't know. I'm going to say I'm going to disagree. Because of the shorter wheelbase inherently and the cars they're benchmarking. Have they kind of reinvented the segment for themselves? I'm kind of thinking yes.
They're in a space without a lot of direct competition because the Cayman is more expensive. The Vet is a little bit bigger. What else is here? The M2 maybe? But the M2 is a 2+2 and doesn't feel like a dedicated platform.
Exactly.
Honestly.
This is the dedicated platform.
All right, before we go anywhere, I have to talk about what I think is the elephant in the room.
Okay.
And that is the center console of this car. This is the place where Toyota cannot help it. This is a BMW. here on the actual driver interaction, the gauges and all that, I'm okay with that being a Toyota. This is a BMW center console. It's not even like a BMW center console. It is a BMW center console. When you get into the navigation and all of that, the font, the setup. Now look, BMW's gotten to a place where iDrive is one of the best systems out there. Started as hated, now it's great, but you cannot get around the fact that this center console is from BMW.
Is that a bad thing though? Toyota taking lessons from BMW on interior shapes and the way things are laid out?
The reason I bring it up is because this is the thing that everybody's talking about it essentially just being a BMW. And if that's something that stresses you out as a possible person to like this car, this center console is going to stress you out.
Sure.
That's the place where you're going to be like, see, it is a BMW.
It's not a reason to not buy the car.
But then you start interacting with it and you realize, you know what, it's done well, so what am I angry about? I have a positive BMW contribution though. For in spite of the center console, the seats are excellent. And I think that is a BMW contribution to this discussion.
Interior is very clean. You might say it doesn't match the exterior. It's so clean and simple lines.
It's in contrast.
I think that's a good thing for long-term likability, and I think it's very good. The exterior styling is very close to the FT1 concept, and in this case, the FT1, the concept came out first. It wasn't done after this car, and that is kudos to Toyota for, I'll say, shoehorning. I mean, they did stuffed the larger exterior proportions of the FT1 and brought them down to the new package that has been decided on jointly, and they've shrunk the proportions now. I say well done, and I do like the styling, and it is very Toyota.
I've struggled with this styling.
I
think it's better in person. I still am not.
Most cars are.
I still am not entirely 100% on board with the F1 inspired nose. That little nose cone there.
It's better than the McLaren SLR. It's
but that's not a great bar to set, honestly. If we're comparing better than the nose on, anyway. But I think this car actually carries colors very well. It looks fantastic in yellow.
It does.
Looks great in red.
I'd take it in yellow.
This is a very, and you're not a guy that likes yellow.
This is
a very striking car to look at, and you can see if you see the FT1 concept, if you see these back hips, these haunches are very much off the concept car. That's the place where I see the influence the most. That and the rear. The rear of this car is fantastic. The front I'm mixed on. But I do have to say, the longer I look at it in bright colors, the more I think it's very striking and works. Toyota is very excited about the fact this car is 50-50 weight distribution, and also it has a lower center of gravity than the 86. That is an accomplishment. I am surprised at how much more it weighs. It's like 600 pounds heavier than the 86.
It's a different platform.
It is.
I don't think they can be compared in the weight department.
All right.
They're entirely separate platforms designed to do very different things.
It is much more of a long-distance road car, and it feels much more like a luxurious car you spent money on than the 86. And so in that regard, it
better.
Absolutely should.
It absolutely 57, 55, fully loaded.
Yep.
You can't come in and say, well, gee, this just feels like an oversized 86.
Yes.
That would be bad.
I think they've actually done a fairly good job of making a space for both these cars. Except I wonder about that 4-cylinder version in Japan, because at that point I really don't know why the 86 exists.
This car rotates.
It's really short. It's surprisingly short. It's actually a shorter wheelbase than the 86. Think about that for a minute. The 86 is not big. This is 4 inches shorter wheelbase, and you definitely feel that in rotation for sure.
Well, think about this to start with. We're on track after hearing all the specs, all the stats. Indeed, it's a 97.4. Ask me how I know that. Wheelbase.
Write that down, kids. Okay. That's important.
Honestly, this is one of the shorter wheelbases that I've felt on track.
Yeah.
And you can feel that back end come around. Woo. Yeah.
Tight track, really tight track. We're on, I think it's called the Shenandoah Circuit. This is a track almost more suited to the 86 and the Miata than a big boy like this as far as speed's concerned.
Does it matter the weight? Because here's the conversation.
Okay.
It's about the feel.
Agreed.
We can't just lean on, that's less weight than another car.
True.
Whatever the exact weight is. Because some cars carry their weight a lot better than others.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And this is one of them. You think, it's over 3,000 pounds. It drives really well. It drives lighter.
It's 3,400 pounds. It does not feel that heavy. I mean, that's essentially about the same. We were looking this up earlier. It's about the same weight as the current Corvette.
It is. It was in this front straightaway, this braking zone, that I thought, all right, I'll come in pretty hot. And it was over 100. I just briefly glanced.
Yeah.
And then the brakes seemed to be wooden. But then I realized there was much more travel. I wasn't pushing on them hard enough, and I wasn't getting all the goodness out of them. And all right, make sure I'm straight.
That's a lot of braking.
On the brakes. That does come up quick, doesn't it?
It does, and it kind of launches that way if you don't get it right.
Yeah.
So yeah, we got to be a little careful.
I guess I'm giving myself more leeway to find more about the brake pedal. We're having a conversation. We're getting to know each other.
Of more braking. You know what? I am over here, so do that on your own time. In this track situation, I have to say, I feel the passenger seat moving and rubbing against this crossbar here. We've actually heard that crossbar is not structural. It is there to essentially stop the seat's travel more than it's a structural piece. And when you're sitting here, look, I'm being picky. When you're sitting here as a passenger on the track, when is that going to happen? This seat is rubbing against it. I can feel it actually shifting. It's a bit annoying, only because I'm getting tossed around.
So this is the time when we've got to have the steering rack discussion.
Okay.
And interestingly, Toyota tells us, we asked the question, what is the ratio? And it is variable.
It's only variable at low speed.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's a 15-to-1. Now, to give you comparison,
15-to-1, yes.
The 86 is 13-to-1. So this is a significantly slower steering ratio than the 86. I love the 86 steering ratio. This definitely feels slower.
I'm wondering, here's a guess. Did they get away with a slower ratio because the wheelbase is shorter?
Absolutely.
And therefore the car will rotate, the diff pushes you right around. You don't need an 11-to-1.
Yeah.
And keep this in mind, if they had done so, would the car be too skittish?
Got the power not only to come out of the hole but also to bring the back around. Plenty of controllability when it starts to slide, so I'm not worried about it, but yet I can put my foot in it back there and I can feel the back come around and I can play with it a bit, which is cool. I mean, this has got full torque from 1600 RPM,
which is astounding.
And so, welcome to Turboland.
We're your hosts of Turboland. Welcome.
So this is that ubiquitous 8-speed gearbox from ZF, and I'm going to do my first lap just with it in automatic mode.
I like that you are. You can feel that back end.
I also
come
turned
around,
off all of the nannies too. So
did you?
Oh yes.
Yep, you can feel it off. That's interesting.
So I'm not touching the paddles. I'm letting it think for itself. And honestly, look, the ZF 8-speed is pretty much the best automatic in the world, and you can tell that because everyone has it on their car.
They're tuning them for every car almost these days.
Now, we are talking about an engine from BMW and a gearbox that's also being used in the BMW, but Toyota did all their own tuning. And again, I'm just letting that gearbox stay in automatic right now. There we go. Hey, there we are.
Slidiness. Nicely done. Yeah.
Letting it think, and it's a good thinker. It does a good job of being ahead of you.
Yeah.
Well, yes, we all would like a manual gearbox. By the way, Toyota knows this. It was asked in the briefing, and they said that every country they have talked about this car in, the first question is, where's the manual gearbox? I have to say to you, I think that means there may be one coming. We don't know that, but when you're having that kind of response from the Toyota people, it suggests that something is being considered. But let's be honest, people have got to buy this in current form before Toyota's going to make an alternative.
I'm noticing differences between ZFs and BMWs, ZFs and Alphas, ZFs in a lot of different cars, which we like them there, but it's actually tuned even differently and kind of made for this car, essentially from a weight and balance standpoint. So I'm liking it. Again.
Well, but for a track situation, of course, we're just talking sheer speed. You're going to be much happier that you have the ZF.
Yes,
true. If they had a manual, I bet you it'd be maybe 20% of the buyers. Maybe.
And everybody would rejoice and say, okay, you did it right. But did Toyota make a misstep, at least in launching the car? No, I don't think so.
They made the safe play. That's what they did. They made the safe play. If they launched it as a manual transmission, the internet would have rejoiced and they would have sold less cars. I hate to say it that way, but that's the truth of it.
But is there less safe in that equation and more they've had their pro drivers on track with this car and making those decisions. So, yeah, safe, but
I don't think that was a pro driver discussion. I think that was a discussion of what are we going to sell. And the truth is, marketing-wise, people are going to buy an automatic more commonly, because the thing is, most of the time people are going to buy this and they're going to commute in it. I hate to say it, but they're going to commute in it.
Yeah, that's the next discussion, isn't it?
Hello. There we go.
There we go. Nice. That was fast.
It was pretty quick.
Yep.
Do I want a manual? Yeah, I do. But do
Sure.
you need a manual? If you want to go fast, this is the go fast recipe. Of course it is. Think about the track that we were just on. Think about the track that they chose for this car. Honestly, I think it's a better track for the 86. It's very short.
Yeah.
And that is the place where I think they are playing to this car's center of gravity, which they're bragging about is lower than the 86. Its balance, which is 50-50, and that really short wheelbase for rotation. They clearly have worked hard here, and that's cool to see, and it's interesting to drive it around the 86. And I can think of one place where the 86 beats this, though.
Oh, really?
And that is, this is not nearly as usable a car as the 86. It's got a 4-inch shorter wheelbase, no back seats. This almost feels like a Z car in usability.
Sure, I hear you, but different platform, and there's
probably a different buyer,
larger components, and there's adaptive suspension.
Yeah.
The 86 doesn't have that. That will maybe take up more space in the back, and the platform itself. So I can't put them in the same category.
It's not too surprising once you know everything that's going on here. But if you were shopping for a do-it-all sports car, I actually think the 86 is better. I don't really think that's why this is going to be shopped, because I don't think that's really why you buy a Cayman new either. But
it doesn't occur to people, honestly.
I think it's a genuine competitor, and that I'm glad to see.
Yeah. I'm coming away happy. Really, really happy.
This has a Toyota badge on it, and it's built in Austria by BMW.
Yeah.
So, I come back to, do I personally wish this was a Toyota-only product? I do. But it wouldn't exist. And so I would rather it's here and it be this good than stress about which parts Toyota did and which parts Toyota didn't. I don't know why you would throw this out because of the collaboration.
Yeah.
And if you're going to shop the competitors, honestly, if you're going to drive a Corvette, if you're going to drive a Cayman, you need to drive this, because I think it is a viable alternative option. And I suspect it's going to surprise people.
The question is, as a Cayman owner, am I compelled? Yeah, it's doing everything it can in its power to give me the hard sell. And believe me, I hope Toyota sells a lot of these cars.
So especially with the Cayman as the benchmark. That's interesting that you think it's a viable competitor.
Is it even worth acknowledging because it's a collaboration? Because
of course it is.
Two companies had to come together to build this? Absolutely. Absolutely. Here at Everyday Driver, we're one of the longest running car shows on the web.
We are.
If you've been watching us since 2007, or you just discovered us last week, we are an independent channel and still producing original content.
Our TV show airs on the Motor Trend Network, but if you don't have cable, all the episodes can be streamed on Amazon Prime.
We host a top 10 automotive podcast called The Car Debate, with about 400 episodes and new ones airing every Tuesday and Friday. So if you've got a question or need a car, our podcast can help you.
Here on YouTube, the Fast Blasts are still here. They're going to become a little simpler, more like a video podcast, actually, mixed with a new car review.
We'll still make well-produced single-car reviews of enthusiast cars. Plus, we're adding Champs doing classics, Nate doing motorcycles, and we're even doing the occasional mountain bike review.
And if that's not enough, we do have 5 feature films, including one-of-a-kind generational comparisons of the Corvette, the 911, and the M3.
Plus, we host meetups, track days, and even a trip to the ring and spa.
We do all of that. So thanks for watching, listening, sharing. There's lots more to come.